The world had always been full of mysteries. Humanity looked up at the stars, wondering if they were alone in the universe. People built telescopes to peer deeper into space and sent probes to explore distant planets. But no one expected what happened on that fateful evening. A moment that would change everything forever. It started with a strange sound, a low hum that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. At first, people thought it was thunder or some kind of atmospheric disturbance. Farmers paused their work in fields, children stopped playing outside, and city dwellers stepped out onto balconies to see what was going on. The sky began to shimmer, unnaturally, like heat waves rising off asphalt on a summer day. Then, without warning, the heavens tore apart. A massive crack appeared high above the earth, glowing with an eerie blue light that bathed the planet below. It wasn't just a natural phenomenon. It was deliberate, as though someone or something had ripped open the fabric of reality itself. From this gaping wound in the sky emerged enormous ships unlike anything humanity had ever seen. They were sleek and metallic, bristling with weapons and antennae, each one larger than any skyscraper on Earth. These weren't mere spaceships. They were star destroyers, machines designed for conquest and destruction. The townspeople of Millfield, Kansas, where the rift first appeared, froze in shock. Some dropped to their knees, praying fervently. Others screamed, running for cover as if expecting immediate doom. Cars screeched to a halt on highways, and phones lit up with frantic calls, as news spread faster than wildfire. Social media exploded with videos of the event, showing the alien vessels descending slowly, casting long shadows over the landscape. No one knew why they were here or what they wanted, but everyone felt the same thing: fear. Meanwhile, deep, underground and secure facilities scattered across the globe, alarms blared. Governments had long prepared for scenarios involving extraterrestrial contact, but none of them imagined it would happen like this. In a secret bunker beneath Colorado, General Marcus Reed stared at a live feed of the unfolding chaos. His face was grim as he addressed his team. "This isn't a visitation," he said firmly. "They're here to invade." What the general didn't tell his staff was that humanity wasn't entirely unprepared. Decades earlier, during the height of the Cold War, scientists and engineers had secretly developed advanced technologies under a program called Project Sentinel. Its purpose? To defend Earth against potential threats from beyond our solar system. While the project officially ended years ago, its legacy lived on in classified military installations hidden around the world. Now those secrets were about to be unveiled. Above ground, panic continued to spread. The alien ships hovered silently for several minutes, surveying the planet like predators sizing up prey. Their sheer size dwarfed even the largest human-made structures. Buildings looked like toys compared to these behemoths, and the air vibrated with an unsettling energy emanating from their hulls. Then came the transmission, a voice booming across every radio frequency and television channel worldwide. It spoke in broken English, distorted yet chillingly clear. "Surrender your world. Resistance is futile." But humanity wasn't ready to give up, not yet. Beneath the surface, preparations were already underway. Hidden launch tunnels concealed within mountainsides began to rumble as ancient engines roared to life. One by one, massive ships ascended into the sky, revealing themselves to the invaders and to the terrified humans watching below. These vessels bore no resemblance to the clumsy rockets of NASA's past. Sleek, angular, and gleaming with cutting-edge technology, they radiated power and precision. Each ship carried enough firepower to level entire cities, but their true strength lay in their speed and agility. This was humanity's answer to the alien threat. As the human fleet took position above the planet, the aliens hesitated. Clearly, they hadn't anticipated resistance, not on this scale. For centuries, they likely believed themselves superior to whatever primitive species might inhabit Earth. But now, faced with evidence of advanced weaponry and strategic planning, doubt crept into their ranks. Still, arrogance kept them from retreating immediately. Instead, they opened fire, testing the limits of humanity's defenses. The first shots exchanged between the two fleets lit up the night sky like fireworks. Alien lasers streaked through the atmosphere, striking human ships with devastating force. Yet, to the invaders' astonishment, many of the attacks were deflected by invisible shields or absorbed harmlessly by thick armor plating. In response, human pilots executed maneuvers so daring they left the aliens reeling. Banking sharply, dodging barrages of energy blasts and returning fire with pinpoint accuracy, the human fleet proved itself more than a match for the invaders. Back on Earth, millions watched the battle unfold live via satellite feeds. Cities emptied as people gathered in public squares, glued to giant screens broadcasting the fight for survival. Children clung to their parents, tears streaming down their faces, while elderly couples held hands, whispering prayers. Despite the terror gripping the planet, there was also a sense of awe. Humanity had risen to the occasion, standing tall, against an enemy that moments ago had seemed invincible. General Reed monitored the situation closely from his command center. He knew this was only the beginning. The aliens wouldn't retreat easily and casualties were inevitable. But he also understood something else. Humanity had been underestimated. For too long, Earth's nations squabbled among themselves, divided by politics and greed. Now, united by a common foe, they fought not just for survival but for pride, for the right to determine their own destiny. In the skies above, the tide of the battle began to shift. Human pilots, trained rigorously using simulations based on theoretical alien combat tactics, executed strategies that caught the invaders completely off guard. Swarms of smaller fighter craft darted between the alien destroyers, targeting weak points in their hulls. Larger ships provided covering fire, unleashing salvos of missiles that exploded with such intensity they temporarily blinded anyone watching from below. The aliens scrambled to adapt, but their rigid formations and predictable patterns made them vulnerable. Slowly but surely, cracks began to form in their once impenetrable line. A few of their ships fell, plummeting toward Earth in fiery crashes that shook the ground miles away. Cheers erupted from crowds gathered below, though the celebration was short-lived. Everyone knew the fight was far from over. For Sarah Callahan, watching the battle from her remote Montana ranch, the scene felt surreal. She'd spent years living off the grid, trying to escape the violence she'd known in her former life. Yet here she was, witnessing humanity's darkest hour and its brightest moment. As she stood on her porch, gazing upward at the flashes of light illuminating the horizon, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, humanity would prevail after all. Little did she know, her own story of courage and resilience was about to unfold in ways she never could have imagined. The battle between humanity's fleet and the alien invaders raged on, lighting up the sky like a cosmic storm. Explosions erupted in bursts of orange and blue, sending shockwaves rippling through the atmosphere. Alien ships fired relentlessly, their energy beams slicing through the air with terrifying precision. But for every shot they landed, humanity struck back twice as hard. The human pilots, trained under Project Sentinel's rigorous simulations, executed maneuvers that seemed impossible to the untrained eye. Barrel rolls, sudden dives, and sharp turns became their signature moves, leaving the aliens struggling to keep up. In the command center beneath Colorado, General Marcus Reed watched intently as data streamed across multiple screens. His team of analysts worked tirelessly, decoding patterns in the aliens' attacks and feeding real-time strategies to the pilots above. "They're predictable," one analyst remarked, pointing to a cluster of alien ships forming a tight triangular formation. "If we target the lead vessel, the others will falter." Reed nodded, his jaw tightening. "Send the coordinates to Captain Vega," he ordered. Moments later, Captain Elena Vega, one of humanity's top pilots, received the intel. Her sleek fighter craft darted through enemy fire, weaving between debris from destroyed ships. With laser cannons blazing, she locked onto the lead alien destroyer and unleashed a barrage of missiles. The explosion was massive, sending shards of metal spiraling into space. As predicted, the remaining alien ships in the formation scattered, their once coordinated attack crumbling into chaos. But the victory came at a cost. Several human ships had been hit during the exchange, their damaged hulls trailing smoke as they limped back toward Earth's atmosphere. One ship, piloted by Lieutenant James Carter, took a direct hit to its propulsion system. Stranded in the void of space, Carter activated his emergency beacon, hoping for rescue before the aliens could finish him off. Back in the command center, Reed clenched his fists. "We can't afford to lose anyone," he muttered. "Deploy a recovery squad immediately." Meanwhile, the alien commander aboard the largest destroyer, known as the Obsidian Blade, seethed with frustration. He had expected an easy conquest, a primitive species bowing to their superior technology. Instead, he faced a foe capable of matching them blow for blow. His advisors urged caution, suggesting a tactical retreat to regroup. But pride clouded his judgment. "No," he growled, his voice echoing through the ship's bridge. "We crush them now. Show these humans why we are the dominant species." With renewed determination, the aliens launched a fresh wave of assaults. This time, they employed cloaking technology, rendering several of their smaller vessels invisible to radar. The move caught humanity off guard, allowing the aliens to slip past defenses and target key positions within the human fleet. Panic spread among the pilots as invisible enemies fired from unseen locations. Ships exploded without warning, their crews vanishing into the cold emptiness of space. Captain Vega, however, refused to panic. She had faced worse odds during her training and knew how to adapt. Activating her ship's thermal sensors, she scanned the area for heat signatures left behind by the cloaked vessels. Sure enough, faint traces appeared on her monitor, ghostly outlines moving stealthily through the battlefield. "Gotcha," she whispered, a determined smile crossing her lips. Adjusting her trajectory, she lined up a shot and fired. The blast hit its mark, disabling one of the cloaked ships and revealing its position to the rest of the fleet. Word of Vega's success spread quickly among the human pilots. Inspired by her ingenuity, others began using similar tactics to counter the alien cloaking devices. Slowly but surely, the tide turned once again in humanity's favor. Alien ships fell one by one, their wreckage tumbling toward Earth like burning meteors. Cheers erupted in the command center as analysts reported a significant drop in enemy activity. Yet, Reed remained cautious. "Don't celebrate yet," he warned. "They'll try something desperate soon." He was right. Desperation drove the alien commander to unleash his most devastating weapon, a massive energy cannon mounted on the Obsidian Blade. When activated, the cannon emitted a blinding beam of light, capable of obliterating entire fleets in seconds. As the weapon charged, alarms blared across the human ships. Pilots scrambled to evade, but the sheer size of the beam made it nearly impossible to dodge completely. In an instant, 3 human vessels were vaporized, their crews lost forever. The loss sent a ripple of grief through the fleet, but it also ignited a fiery resolve. Humanity couldn't afford to let fear dictate their actions, not when so much was at stake. Captain Vega, still reeling from the destruction she'd witnessed, rallied her fellow pilots. "We've come too far to give up now," she shouted over the comms. "Stick together, stay sharp, and take them down." Her words reignited hope among the crew. Working as a cohesive unit, the human ships formed a defensive perimeter around the charging cannon. Smaller fighters swarmed the Obsidian Blade, targeting its exposed engines and weapon systems. Larger cruisers provided covering fire, forcing the alien gunners to divert their attention. Amid the chaos, Lieutenant Daniel Park, a rookie pilot, with nerves of steel, spotted a critical vulnerability: a coolant vent located near the base of the cannon. If hit, it would cause the weapon to overheat and self-destruct. "I've got this," Park said calmly, steering his ship toward the vent. Enemy fire peppered his hull, but he pressed on, dodging blasts with remarkable skill. Just as the cannon prepared to fire again, Park released a missile directly into the vent. The resulting explosion rocked the Obsidian Blade, sending it spiraling out of control. Flames engulfed the massive destroyer, its once imposing frame reduced to a smoldering wreck. The destruction of the Obsidian Blade marked a turning point in the battle. Without their flagship, the remaining alien ships descended into disarray. Some attempted to flee, while others fought desperately to hold their ground. But humanity wasn't about to let them escape unscathed. Admiral Cruz, overseeing the operation from her command ship, issued a decisive order: pursue and neutralize, leave no survivors. Human fighters surged forward, chasing the retreating aliens toward the rift in the sky. The gap, which had brought the invaders to Earth, was beginning to close. Realizing they were running out of time, the aliens accelerated, desperate to reach safety. But humanity's pilots were faster. One by one, they picked off the fleeing ships, ensuring none could return to threaten Earth again. Back on the ground, people watched the final moments of the battle unfold with bated breath. Television screens flickered with images of burning alien vessels and victorious human ships soaring triumphantly through the sky. Cheers erupted in cities and towns worldwide, tears streaming down faces as relief washed over the planet. For the first time in hours, the hum of fear gave way to a sense of hope. In Millfield, Kansas, the same small town where the invasion had begun, residents gathered in the town square, hugging strangers and thanking whatever higher powers they believed in. Among them stood Sarah Callahan, who had driven into town to witness the historic event. Though she hadn't participated in the battle herself, she felt a deep connection to the bravery displayed by those who had. As she looked up at the closing rift, a strange feeling washed over her. It was pride, yes, but also curiosity. What lay beyond that tear in the sky? And what other secrets might the universe hold? Little did she know, her own story of courage was just beginning. While the immediate threat had been neutralized, questions lingered about the true nature of the alien invaders and whether they would attempt another assault. Humanity had proven itself capable of defending its home, but the cost of victory weighed heavily on everyone's minds. Lives had been lost, and scars, both physical and emotional, would take years to heal. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, there was a newfound sense of unity. Nations that had once clashed over borders and ideologies now stood side by side, united by a common purpose. Scientists collaborated to study the remnants of alien technology, hoping to unlock new advancements for the betterment of humanity. Engineers worked tirelessly to repair damaged ships and fortify Earth's defenses against future threats. And ordinary citizens, inspired by the heroism they'd witnessed, vowed to build a brighter, stronger future. For Sarah, the events of the night served as a reminder of her own strength. Watching humanity rise to meet an unimaginable challenge stirred something deep within her, a call to action she couldn't ignore. Perhaps it was time to step out of the shadows of her quiet ranch life and embrace the skills she'd honed during her days in Delta Force. After all, if Earth ever needed someone willing to fight for its survival, she was ready. As the last traces of the rift disappeared, leaving the night sky clear and star-filled once more, Sarah climbed into her truck and drove back home. The road ahead promised challenges, but she faced them with unwavering determination. Humanity had proven it could stand tall against even the greatest of foes. Now it was time to rebuild, to learn, and to prepare for whatever lay beyond the stars. The battle had ended, but the scars it left behind were far from healed. The skies above Earth were eerily quiet now, save for the faint hum of human ships patrolling what remained of the rift. Debris from both alien and human vessels floated, aimlessly in orbit, a grim reminder of the cost of victory. Fires still smoldered in fields where alien wreckage had crashed, and emergency response teams worked tirelessly to contain radiation leaks and toxic spills caused by damaged alien technology. Billions of people around the world tried to return to their daily lives, but the events of the past hours and the realization that humanity was not alone in the universe weighed heavily on everyone's minds. In the aftermath of the invasion, governments scrambled to make sense of what had just happened. Emergency summits were held in secure locations, with leaders from every nation gathering to discuss the next steps. For decades, countries had competed against one another, prioritizing their own interests over global cooperation. But the alien attack had changed everything. No single nation could have defended itself alone. Survival depended on unity. In an unprecedented move, World leaders agreed to form the Global Defense Initiative, GDI, a coalition tasked with protecting Earth from future extraterrestrial threats. Resources were pooled, secrets shared, and borders dissolved, at least temporarily, as humanity prepared for whatever might come next. Admiral Elena Cruz stood at the forefront of this new era. Her leadership during the battle had been instrumental in turning the tide against the invaders, earning her widespread respect and admiration. Now, as head of the GDI, she faced a daunting challenge, rebuilding Earth's defenses while also preparing for potential retaliation. "We've won this round," she told her team during a briefing in the newly established headquarters beneath Geneva, Switzerland. "But we can't afford to let our guard down. If those aliens decide to come back, they'll bring reinforcements." Cruz wasn't exaggerating. Intelligence gathered from recovered alien tech revealed disturbing details about their civilization. The invaders belonged to a species known as the Xylothians, a militaristic race that thrived on conquest. Their empire spanned dozens of star systems, each conquered through brute force and advanced weaponry. What worried Cruz most, however, was evidence suggesting the Xylothians viewed Earth not just as a target for plunder, but as a resource-rich planet ripe for colonization. "They'll be back," she said grimly, "and when they do, they'll hit us harder than before." Meanwhile, efforts to study the alien technology ramped up across the globe. Scientists pored over fragments of destroyed ships, analyzing materials stronger than anything humans had ever created. Engineers reverse-engineered alien weapons, hoping to adapt them for peaceful uses like energy production and medical advancements. One particularly groundbreaking discovery came from a research team in Japan. They uncovered a way to harness the same cloaking technology used by the Xylothians, potentially revolutionizing stealth operations for Earth's military forces. Every breakthrough brought renewed hope, but also raised ethical questions about how far humanity should go in exploiting alien knowledge. Back in Millfield, Kansas, Sarah Callahan watched these developments unfold from afar. She hadn't joined the celebrations or attended any of the town meetings discussing the future. Instead, she focused on repairing her farm, which had suffered collateral damage during the battle. A stray blast from an alien ship had scorched part of her pasture, killing several cattle and leaving deep craters in the ground. It was hard work, but Sarah didn't mind. Manual labor gave her time to think, to process everything she'd seen and felt during the invasion. As she shoveled dirt into one of the craters, her thoughts drifted to the bravery displayed by the pilots who had fought so valiantly to protect Earth. She admired their courage, their willingness to face overwhelming odds without hesitation, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that she could have done more, that her skills as a former Delta Force operative might have made a difference. After all, defending the innocent and standing up to bullies was exactly what she'd trained for. Why had she stayed on the sidelines? Her musings were interrupted by the sound of tires crunching on gravel. Turning, she saw a familiar figure step out of a dusty pickup truck. Sheriff Tom Harris, a longtime friend and one of the few people who knew about her past. He approached cautiously, tipping his hat as he reached her. "Afternoon, Sarah," he greeted, his voice warm yet tinged with concern. "How's the cleanup going?" "Slow," she replied, leaning on her shovel. "But I'll get there." Tom nodded, glancing around at the damaged property. "Looks like you've got your hands full. Listen, I didn't just stop by to check on you. There's something else. Something important." His tone shifted, becoming serious. "The government's looking for volunteers, people with special skills to help train civilians in case the aliens return. They're offering incentives, tax breaks, that kind of thing. And, well," he hesitated, meeting her gaze, "I thought you might want to consider it." Sarah frowned, setting the shovel aside. "You think I should sign up? Teach farmers how to shoot straight?" Her tone carried a hint of skepticism, though Tom detected a flicker of interest beneath her words. "It's not just about teaching people to fight," Tom explained. "It's about giving folks a chance to defend themselves, to take control of their own safety. You've got experience most people only dream of. Who better to lead the charge?" For a moment, Sarah said nothing, staring off toward the horizon. The idea appealed to her on some level. Teaching others to stand their ground aligned with her values, and it would give her a purpose beyond tending to cows and crops. Still, she hesitated. Re-entering that world meant confronting memories she'd spent years burying. Could she handle it? Before she could respond, the distant roar of jet engines caught their attention. Both turned to see a squadron of human fighter jets streaking across the sky, likely conducting routine patrols near the site of the rift. Watching them, Sarah felt a surge of pride mixed with resolve. Maybe Tom was right. Maybe it was time to step up, not just for herself, but for everyone who relied on people like her to keep them safe. "I'll think about it," she finally said, turning back to Tom with a small smile, but no promises. Tom grinned, clearly pleased with her response. "That's all I ask. Just promise me one thing. Don't wait too long to decide. The world needs people like you now more than ever." Hours later, as night fell over the ranch, Sarah sat on her porch sipping coffee and gazing at the stars. The sky looked peaceful tonight, free of the chaos that had marred it just days ago. Yet she knew appearances could be deceiving. Somewhere out there, the Xylothians were licking their wounds, plotting their revenge. Humanity had proven it could fight back, but the real test lay ahead. A soft breeze rustled the trees, carrying with it the scent of fresh earth and wildflowers. Sarah closed her eyes, letting the calm wash over her. Despite the uncertainty looming on the horizon, she felt a strange sense of clarity. Life had taught her that fear was inevitable, but so was resilience. Whether she chose to join the training program or continue living quietly on her farm, one thing was certain: she wouldn't run from challenges anymore. Not after seeing what humanity was capable of achieving together. With a determined sigh, Sarah rose from her chair and headed inside. Tomorrow was a new day, filled with possibilities. Whatever path she chose, she vowed to walk it with courage and conviction. Because if the aliens dared to return, they'd find Earth ready, and this time they wouldn't underestimate its defenders again. Sarah Callahan woke early the next morning, her mind buzzing with thoughts of the conversation she'd had with Sheriff Tom Harris. The idea of stepping back into a world she had left behind years ago weighed heavily on her. For so long she had buried her past under layers of dirt and solitude, finding peace in the simplicity of farm life. But now, as humanity faced an unprecedented threat from the stars, Sarah couldn't ignore the call to action any longer. She knew deep down that her skills could make a difference, not just for herself, but for the countless people who might need protection if the aliens returned. As the sun rose over the hills of Montana, casting golden light across her fields, Sarah made her decision. She would volunteer to help train civilians. It wasn't about glory or recognition. It was about doing what was right. With renewed purpose, she called Tom to let him know she was in. He sounded relieved and proud as he assured her that someone from the Global Defense Initiative, GDI, would be in touch soon. By noon, a sleek black SUV pulled up her gravel driveway, kicking up clouds of dust as it came to a stop outside her barn. The man who stepped out introduced himself as Agent Daniel Grayson, a liaison for the GDI. Dressed in a sharp suit and wearing dark sunglasses despite the bright sunlight, he exuded authority. "Ms. Callahan," he said, extending a hand. "We're grateful you've agreed to assist us. Your experience is invaluable." Sarah shook his hand firmly, her expression neutral. "Let's cut to the chase," she replied. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" Grayson nodded, pulling out a tablet and handing it to her. On the screen was a detailed plan outlining the GDI's efforts to prepare civilians for potential future attacks. The initiative included basic combat training, survival skills, and even workshops on identifying alien technology. "We're setting up regional training centers across the country," he explained. "People like you, people with real-world experience, will lead these programs. You'll teach them how to protect themselves and their communities." Sarah scrolled through the information, her brow furrowing slightly. While the concept seemed straightforward enough, she couldn't help but feel uneasy about being thrust back into such a structured environment. You realize I'm not exactly a desk jockey, she said dryly. I don't do well with bureaucracy. Grayson chuckled, though there was no mistaking the seriousness in his tone. We're aware of your unique approach, he admitted. That's why we want you involved. This isn't about following orders blindly, it's about empowering ordinary citizens to defend themselves. We need people who can think on their feet, adapt to unpredictable situations, and inspire others to do the same. That's where you come in. His words struck a chord. Sarah had always prided herself on her ability to improvise, to turn chaos into opportunity. If there was one thing she excelled at, it was thinking outside the box and teaching others to do the same. After a moment of consideration, she nodded. All right, I'm in, but I have conditions. Grayson raised an eyebrow. Name them. For starters, I work my way, she said firmly. No micromanaging, no red tape. If I say something needs to be done a certain way, it gets done that way. Secondly, I stay close to home. I'm not leaving this ranch unless absolutely necessary. 2. His credit, Grayson didn't hesitate. Done, consider it a pilot program. We'll build around your methods and see how it goes. If it works, we'll expand nationwide. He extended his hand again. Deal? Sarah hesitated only briefly before shaking it. Deal. Over the next few weeks, Sarah threw herself into preparing for the training program. Word spread quickly throughout Millfield and surrounding towns, drawing interest from farmers, shopkeepers, teachers, and mechanics alike. Some were eager to learn self-defense techniques, while others simply wanted to contribute however they could. By the time the first session was scheduled, nearly 50 volunteers had signed up. On the day of the training, Sarah stood in the middle of her property, which had been transformed into a makeshift obstacle course. Hay bales served as cover, old tires formed a running track, and wooden beams created balance beams. A group of nervous but determined participants gathered around her, clutching rifles and handguns provided by the GPI. Sarah surveyed them with a critical eye, noting their varied levels of fitness and confidence. All right, listen up, she shouted, her voice cutting through the chatter. Everyone fell silent, turning their attention to her. First things first, put aside whatever preconceived notions you have about fighting. This isn't Hollywood, and none of you are superheroes. What you're going to learn here is practical hands-on stuff that could save your life or someone else's, if the aliens decide to pay us another visit. Got it? A chorus of nods greeted her statement. Satisfied, Sarah began the session with the basics. Handling firearms safely, aiming accurately, and reloading efficiently. She moved among the participants, correcting stances and offering tips. Despite their initial nerves, most picked up the skills quickly, encouraged by Sarah's no-nonsense yet supportive teaching style. By midday, the group transitioned to physical drills. Sarah led them through exercises designed to improve strength, agility, and endurance. Push-ups, sprints, and climbing challenges pushed many to their limits, but Sarah didn't let anyone quit. You think the aliens are going to give you time to catch your breath? She barked when one man collapsed during a sprint. Get up and keep moving. Her tough love approach earned grumbles at first, but as the days went on, the participants grew stronger and more confident. They learned to work together, forming bonds that transcended age, gender, and background. Farmers teamed up with teachers, teenagers paired with retirees, all united by a shared goal: survival. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah gathered the group around a campfire. The mood was lighter now, laughter echoing through the cool night air. Someone handed her a guitar, and though she protested, Sarah eventually gave in, strumming a few chords while the others sang along. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of belonging. A reminder that even in the face of uncertainty, human connection remained one of the strongest forces of all. But beneath the camaraderie lay a sobering truth. This training wasn't just preparation, it was insurance. Humanity had won the first battle, but the war was far from over. Somewhere out there, the Xylothians were regrouping, planning their next move. And when they returned, Earth would need every advantage it could muster. As Sarah stared into the flames, she thought about the rift in the sky, the gaping wound that had brought both destruction and revelation. It was a reminder of how fragile life truly was, yet also of its resilience. No matter what happened next, humanity had proven it could stand tall against impossible odds. And if the aliens dared to return, they'd find not just soldiers waiting for them, but farmers, teachers, parents, and children ready to fight for their home. With that thought, Sarah set the guitar aside and stood, brushing off her jeans. "All right, folks," she said, her voice steady. "Time for bed. Tomorrow we start practicing ambush tactics. Get some rest, you're gonna need it." The group groaned good-naturedly, but there was no mistaking the determination in their eyes. They trusted Sarah, believed in her vision, and were willing to follow wherever she led. As she watched them file off toward their tents, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Maybe she hadn't chosen the quiet life after all. But then again, maybe quiet wasn't what the world needed. Right now, months passed since the alien invasion, and life on Earth began to change in profound ways. The scars of battle still lingered. Fields bore craters from falling debris, cities repaired shattered windows, and families mourned loved ones lost during the conflict. Yet amidst the rebuilding, a new spirit emerged. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and triumphed, proving that even in the face of unimaginable odds, courage and unity could prevail. For Sarah Callahan, this transformation was personal. What started as a quiet existence on her Montana ranch had evolved into something far greater, a role she never imagined for herself, but one that felt increasingly right. Sarah's training program became a model for the Global Defense Initiative, GDI. Her methods were unconventional yet effective, blending military precision with practical survival skills tailored for everyday people. Participants learned not only how to handle weapons, but also how to improvise tools, navigate hostile terrain, and work together under pressure. News of her success spread beyond Millfield, inspiring similar programs across the globe. Farmers, who once feared leaving their homes, now stood ready to defend them. Teachers taught their students emergency preparedness alongside math and science. Even children played games imagining themselves as protectors of Earth. One afternoon, as Sarah supervised a mock ambush exercise, Agent Daniel Grayson arrived unannounced at the ranch. His expression was unusually grave, and he carried a tablet tucked under his arm. "We need to talk," he said simply, motioning for her to follow him away from the group. Sensing the urgency in his tone, Sarah excused herself and joined him. Near the barn. "What's going on?" she asked, crossing her arms. Grayson hesitated before speaking. "Our satellites picked up unusual activity near the rift. It's closing, but not naturally. Something's manipulating it." Sarah frowned. "You think the aliens are coming back?" "We're not sure," he admitted. "But we can't take chances. High Command wants you to lead a reconnaissance mission. If the Xylothians are planning another attack, we need eyes on the ground, or rather in space." For a moment, Sarah said nothing, processing the request. She hadn't expected to leave her ranch so soon, let alone venture into orbit. But deep down, she knew she couldn't refuse. This was why she'd agreed to help, to be there when humanity needed her most. "All right," she finally said. "I'll do it, but I'm bringing my team." Grayson nodded approvingly. "Already arranged. Your volunteers will join you. They've earned the chance to prove themselves." The following week, Sarah and a select group of trainees boarded a sleek human spacecraft bound for the remnants of the rift. The journey itself was surreal. None of them had ever left Earth's atmosphere before, and the sight of the planet shrinking below them filled them with awe. Sarah kept her composure, though she couldn't deny the weight of what they were about to face. This wasn't just another training exercise, it was real, and failure wasn't an option. As they approached the rift, the ship's sensors detected faint energy signatures emanating from within. The crack in the sky, once glowing brightly, now pulsed weakly like a dying star. Captain Elena Cruz, overseeing the operation remotely from Earth, communicated with the crew via radio. "Proceed with caution," she warned. "We don't know What's waiting for you on the other side? Sarah led the team through the rift, stepping onto alien soil for the first time. The landscape was barren and desolate, a stark contrast to the vibrant blue-green world they'd left behind. Towering structures made of obsidian-like material loomed in the distance, their jagged edges casting long shadows over the terrain. The air shimmered with an unnatural heat, and strange symbols glowed faintly on the ground, pulsing in rhythm with the rift's energy. "Spread out," Sarah instructed, her voice calm but firm. "Stay alert. We're looking for anything that might explain what's keeping the rift open, and whether the Xylothians are planning a return." The team moved cautiously, scanning the area with handheld devices provided by the GDI. One participant, a young mechanic named Jake, spotted something unusual, a metallic object partially buried in the dirt. He knelt to examine it, brushing away layers of sand until he revealed what appeared to be a small drone. Its surface was etched with intricate patterns, clearly alien in origin. "Sarah," he called, holding up the device. "I think I found something." She hurried over, examining the drone carefully. "Good work," she said, slipping it into a protective case. "Let's keep moving. There's more here. We just have to find it." Hours later, the team stumbled upon a massive underground facility hidden beneath one of the obsidian towers. Using thermal imaging, they located an entrance concealed by camouflaged panels. Inside, the walls were lined with advanced machinery humming softly, powering the rift above. At the center of the room stood a towering console covered in glowing controls. "This must be the source," Sarah muttered, studying the setup. "If we disable it, the rift should close permanently." Before anyone could act, a sudden alarm blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, illuminating the chamber in harsh bursts. Moments later, a squad of Xylothian drones descended from the ceiling, their mechanical limbs whirring menacingly. The team scrambled for cover, drawing their weapons. "Hold your O. Fire unless necessary," Sarah ordered. "We're here to disable the system, not start a fight." Her words proved wise. Instead of attacking outright, the drones surrounded the group, blocking access to the console. Realizing brute force wouldn't work, Sarah signaled for silence. Slowly, she stepped forward, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. To everyone's surprise, the drones paused, tilting their heads as if analyzing her intentions. "They're scanning me," she whispered to the team. "Don't move." After several tense seconds, the drones retracted slightly, allowing Sarah to approach the console. With steady hands, she examined the controls, searching for a way to shut down the system. The symbols were unfamiliar, but her instincts guided her. Pressing a series of buttons in sequence, she triggered a shutdown protocol. The hum of machinery faded, replaced by a low groan as the rift began to collapse in on itself. "We did it," Jake breathed, relief washing over him. "Not yet," Sarah corrected, ushering the team toward the exit. "Let's get out of here before the whole place collapses." They barely made it outside before the facility imploded, sending shockwaves rippling across the alien landscape. The rift above flickered and vanished, leaving only empty sky behind. As the team climbed back aboard their ship, cheers erupted among the crew. For the first time in months, humanity could breathe easy knowing the immediate threat was gone. Back on Earth, news of the mission spread quickly. Sarah and her team became heroes overnight, celebrated for their bravery and ingenuity. Yet, despite the accolades, Sarah remained humble. When reporters asked her what motivated her to take such risks, she simply smiled. "It's not about being a hero," she said. "It's about doing what's right, for ourselves, for our planet, and for future generations." Life slowly returned to normal, or as close to normal as it could be after such an extraordinary event. The GDI continued its work, strengthening Earth's defenses while exploring peaceful uses for recovered alien technology. Solar power plants sprang up worldwide, fueled by energy systems adapted from Xylothian designs. Medical breakthroughs saved countless lives, thanks to advancements in healing technologies reverse-engineered from alien artifacts. For Sarah, the experience reaffirmed her belief in humanity's resilience. Though she returned to her ranch, she stayed involved with the GDI, mentoring new recruits and advising on defense strategies. She knew the universe was vast and full of mysteries, some of which might one day pose new threats. But she also knew that as long as people stood together, no challenge was insurmountable. As she watched the sunset over her fields one evening, Sarah reflected on everything that had happened. The aliens had come seeking conquest, but instead, they had awakened something far stronger, Earth's spirit. And if they, or anyone else, ever dared to threaten her home again, they would find humanity waiting, ready to fight for what mattered most.